Hey guys, well, welcome back to the vlog. Hey, this week I'm doing another property assessment where I'm going to take you around a property that I hope to bring to market soon. By the time you see this, this property is probably going to be for sale. But if you've ever wondered about how a realtor comes up with a value, we're going to talk about that just to educate you on the process. So if you're looking for land, you want to know how we come up for a price, you're going to want to watch this video. Thanks for joining us. You're watching The American Landman. Okay, well, anytime I look at a property, I always start by looking at maps. And what I'm looking for are the things that I talk about frequently on this channel, such as location to metropolitan areas, demographic growth corridors, and then county and even down to the township level. And what I'm looking for are areas of interest, areas of travel. Where do people want to go? How close is the property to where a large majority of people live? Because if a property is close to a metropolitan area, you're going to get more value out of a higher sale price and probably higher equity down the road, because as the population grows, those growth rings start coming out of the cities, equity increases. So what I start with are some MapRight tools that I use, a software called MapRight, and I will zoom in and I'll put a border around a property. And what I'm doing there is I want to see the property boundaries so that when I get there I know, but I also want to see it in relationship to any cities that are around. In this area, we're kind of equidistant between 3 cities, and we're also about equidistant from the Eau Claire, Minneapolis market and the Minneapolis, St. Paul market to the west. And that's important because there's a lot of demographic growth corridors and travel corridors that are heading out this way. So anytime that you find these growth corridors on major freeways, down to secondary freeways, and then the tertiary roads like the small country lanes, if you're close to those areas, and by what I mean by that is within 3 to 5 miles off of a major travel corridor, that's always going to be more valuable. The second thing I look at is, starting with these maps, is I want to see what features are around that property, not just on the property, but around the property. What does the area look like? Because when I bring a client out to a property, that they start to make this impression, and if they like the property, probably 5 or 10 miles from where the actual property is. They're looking at the little towns or the homes and the farms, and are they trashy? Are they small? Are there amenities? Just a lot of things that they do, and they start to create I guess an opinion of a property before they actually see it. So that is important. So I zoom out on a property and look and see what's around it, and then I start coming in tight. Once I get to a property, now I'm looking at those little micro features on the property. I start breaking it down piece by piece by piece. On this property, as an example, there is a lot of things I see. There seems to be an old mine, which I'm going to show you soon. There's a building area, and it could easily be split. There's multiple side roads on this property that if a guy wanted to come in and buy the entire piece as a kind of a wholesale purchase, he could come then later and maybe subdivide it into smaller lots. And we may actually be listing it that way on this listing, where we might actually come in and split this property maybe 2, maybe 3 different ways, like an 80 and a 120, and then sell it as an entire property. So let's get into this. I'm going to take you to a couple of the features that I see, and I'm going to talk to you about why I think these might be a value or a distraction from the overall price. You know, food plotting is really big for a lot of the outdoors type people. And what I found on this property is this field here that has already been in a corn food plot. Now, this one happens to be along the road, and I don't know that it would be a great hunting plot, but for a nighttime destination plot, this could be put into a crop rotation. Or if you weren't a food plotter, if you want to just start renting out some of the land for income, you might be able to get a few bucks out of this. Personally, I think the highest and best use of this is probably just turn it into a yard, because right in front of me is where all the buildings are. Or this could be a great building spot, and then you wouldn't have to tear down these next buildings I'm going to show you and you know, let them go to waste. So let me show you that next. Okay, we're coming into this area that could be a great building area. I mean, you could have a home back here on this old field. There's old buildings. I think this is probably part of the when the mining operation was going on here. But got an old building here, you got electrical brought in, you got an old garage on this side. There's a lot going on here, and this is a town road that comes into this property. Comes in off of one road, comes around and leaves on the other. It's got electric brought in right here, and another old building down in front of me overlooking a pond. And as I'll show you in the video here, it's actually in really good shape, but there's a lot going on here, and this could easily be cleaned up and put into a home area, leaving the entire property to utilize for recreational purposes. Just a lot going on here. So I'm gonna walk you down by the water down here. There's a pond down here. I'm gonna let Lucy swim a little bit, but water features are always a good feature. And let me show you that next. This area of Dunn County doesn't have a lot of water, so having a little pond is nice. Here's another building right here that actually was not in bad shape. If you look at my listing, you're going to see inside there, and I think I'll probably get a little video as well, but that was actually in good shape. It has that tar paper on the outside, very salvageable. So I think that building could be utilized for something. But all right, Lucy's already in the water. Now let me take you over here to this lake here, this little pond. So what they did here is they blocked up a drainage that was coming out of the hills, and as such it created a little pond, as you're going to see here. And but it's filled in a little bit. It's kind of silted in, so you might have to come in here and kind of clean this out a little bit, maybe to keep it usable. But nice little area maybe to water your horses or let your dog swim, train them. That's what Lucy's using. But anytime you have water, guys, that's always attractive, especially if it's well maintained. If you could fish on it, that'd be great. If you could swim on it, that'd be even better. But this is right by the buildings, you can see, so maybe you could build your home overlooking this. So if you find water and a place that you can build, that's always a plus. Okay, now we're moved into a second area that could be a good building area. It's separated off by this little brushy hedgerow, we're going to call it. The homes and the buildings and whatnot are over there with the town road, but now behind me is another area that could easily be built on, and this actually has its own access from another road. So again, when we're looking at these properties and I'm assessing them, I'm looking at this kind of stuff as like, could this be subdivided? And in this case, we are actually going to subdivide this off to a 120 acre parcel that comes off the road and goes in behind. So there's going to be three 40s all linked together. But accessibility from a completely different point of view, privacy, openness, ready to be built on with utilities possibly connected right over here, or perhaps brought off the road. So look for these features, look for this subdivision opportunity, because it could be equity for you in the future. Now, a key feature of any property is access. You know, how do you get into a property? It adds a lot of visual appeal, it adds a lot of usability, and those things add to the overall value. So when I find roads like this that are quiet, that are easily accessible, you can get in and move around this property, that's always going to be a positive. It also adds to the ability to split this property and subdivide. So before, when I started this video, I was coming off the main road where there's two roads that access the edge of this property, but now I'm on an interior road. This adds a little bit more visible usability, split ability, if those are even words, to this property. There's a lot of things you can do here. You could come in and you could put a little home down at the bottom here in this little opening where the buildings are. You could subdivide here and follow this road out and make small parcels, sell these off for 5 acre pieces. So if you're an investment type of person, this is what you're looking for, and this property has a lot of opportunity. Okay, we talked about road infrastructure, but utility infrastructure is just as important. And this property, it already has it. So there's a road coming in, there's a building site right here, and we have electric on site. And this is really important, because if you're coming in and you want to build a dream home, you don't want to have to spend the money to bring in the utilities if you don't have to. In this case, they're already here. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's going on in this property, and therefore this property has a little bit more value. When you're looking at bringing in electric, you're probably looking at about $6 a yard, maybe more. That's what I paid the last time that I put my utilities in. $6 a yard, and if you have to come, in my case, I came like 1,800 yards. I think it was, I don't know, 6,000 bucks, I think is what it came to. It was a long ways, just leave it at that. Here you already have it. So because of the utilities, because of the roads, because of the infrastructure, this property is more valuable. You can split it and everything is here ready to go. So if somebody wants to come in and build, they have a place to build. So look for infrastructure and evaluate what you might have to spend or what the next guy will have to spend, because it'll affect what they're willing to pay for the property. Now, buildings can add or detract from a property. You know, what kind of condition are they in? Are they usable? And this property here has this old building. I think this was like a construction building, probably when they did the mining operation on this property. And this still has some usability. Lucy and I were kind of looking inside here, and we looked inside the windows, and there's equipment being stored in there. So it might have some use as a storage building, but I think if a guy wanted to come out here and utilize this as a home, that may or may not be something you want to keep. So when you're looking at these properties, you kind of have to take into account, are the buildings usable? Do they add a lot of value? Has it been built into the price? Or in this case, maybe they don't have a lot of saleability value, but they might have some usability, but people just aren't going to pay a lot for it. So take a look at these buildings. Do they need to be torn down? Can they be used? Are they added into the sale price? It all affects everything. Okay, well, here's another example of an old building. We're actually inside this one. And believe it or not, this actually looks like in some pretty good shape from the inside. From the outside, it doesn't look so good, but as I look through here, it seems dry in here. There's some tar paper on the exterior of the building that seems to be keeping it pretty good. And the roof actually is in pretty good shape. So this might actually be salvageable. And these could be hidden opportunities on properties that the average guy might not see. There's a saying in real estate that when you walk into a really cruddy, smelly, garbage building or home and you go like this, smell that? And most people go, yeah, it smells like old diapers. That's the smell of money, folks, because this is a structure that could be rehabbed. And this is one of them. So from the outside, it doesn't look like much, but it's a hidden opportunity that you just got to kind of think outside the box, and you can definitely build some equity quick. You know, the best thing about land is there's so much diversity. Every property has its own nuances, and this has a sand mine. And now this could be used for business purposes, perhaps. You'd have to check into the permits, see if you could bring this back to life. But obviously this is good sand. And just recently, and not so much now, but frac sand mining for the oil industry was a big deal. And with the change of the government, things turn over and they stop, but it could come back. And this could end up being just a gold mine, no pun intended, for a future buyer. But right now, I think what this could be used for is an area maybe to ride ATVs or UTVs, or even have a motocross track back on your property. So if you're a person that is interested in recreational properties, or a guy that's selling them, you got to think of all the ways a property could be used. And this is one. It could be definitely a mining operation, or it could be a recreational opportunity in the form of UTV, motorcycle track, just a lot of things going on here. So when you're looking at properties, kind of look behind the curtain, so to say, and look beyond the forest in front of your face. There may be opportunities like this that you could turn into money. I want to take a second to talk about timber value and what I see here. And here's a really good saw log right next to me, and a couple things about this tree. You can tell at breast height it's about 18 inches diameter or larger. This would be a good saw log to take out, and there's actually quite a few of them in here. And as I came into the scene from back there, you can see how there's a number of these trees. It's kind of open, but I want you to particularly pay attention to the stem count, the smaller diameter trees that are absent from this area right here. And that's because these large trees are creating a canopy, and they've shaded out the timber so that there's just not a lot of sunlight hitting the ground here. And as such, you're not getting a lot of regeneration. So although this is pretty to look at, and these glades, if you will, these open areas of timber, they're beautiful to walk through. There's just not much habitat holding power for animals here. And if you hunt this hard and you don't thicken up these areas, you're going to push them right out of here. So these are examples of logs that might be considered taking out when you're looking at property. So as you're walking through and somebody mentions you, there's a lot of timber on this. Look at this, 18 inches height. Do a walk around of this log and look for seams And look at how many, I think they're 8-foot lengths that they go to saw off, and see how many you can get out of there. And then if you don't see the seams and knots and things, a nice straight trunk, that's money right there. So look for that, because it can help you recoup some of the cost of your investment if you buy that property. Okay, now here, in contrast to the last scene, what I start to see is a higher stem count. These trees are all, you know, 3-4 inches in diameter. As I look through here, I can only see 50 yards or so through the timber. And this would be an area that deer would feel more comfortable. And the reason this is like this is because more sunlight hit the ground. Back whenever they cut this property, they probably came in here and felled some large trees, opened up the sky to the sunlight, and that sun's energy hit the ground and it grew up. So you want that type of backdrop, if you will, when you're hunting, because you don't want to have this open area. Open areas can be good, maybe to funnel your scent down through areas where maybe the deer aren't going to travel. But when you're looking for a habitat holding power, these high stem count areas are what you're looking for. And frankly, you want to find that diversity of habitat and stem count on your property. So we're gonna keep moving along here. Lucy is getting hot. It is getting warm. I don't know if you can hear her breathing in the background, but she's getting warm. So come on, babe, let's go. Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap this video up. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this property. I'm in the timber area, and there's actually some decent timber in here. I don't know if the camera picks it up very well, but as I look down through here, I can see 200-300 yards, and I'm seeing some large trees in that 18-inch diameter or greater that probably could be taken out, and it will thicken this up for hunting purposes. Just before I turned on the camera, I actually kicked up a bunch of deer off the far ridge over there. But this property has a lot going on. It's visually appealing back in this area. It's got a lot of topography changes. That's always a plus. When you take topography that is like this and you flatten it out, you've got a lot of surface area. So if you've got these hills like this and these ridges and primary and secondary ridges, you can hunt more people on here. It hunts bigger. Another factor about this property is the accessibility to a lot of the metro area in this area. So it's down Highway 79 from Boyceville. You could come up from the over from the Minneapolis area, up from Menominee area, and you could access this pretty easily. And because it has at least partially 2, almost 3 sides to access, you could split this and subdivide this property into smaller pieces, which are going to make it a little bit more attractive to a buyer that maybe wants to buy a large chunk for an investment and then subdivide it, and that's possible. It's got infrastructure. There's roads and trails and electric brought in. There's a little building site. It's already got the the electrical units already installed. So that's all there. So it's got most of the infrastructure you're going to need to come in here and maybe build on it if you just want it for yourself, or if you want to subdivide it as a investment property. So those are the things we look at on this property. I hope you enjoyed the tour. This is not for sale at this point, but hopefully by the time you see this video, it will be. It's just another day out in the woods and on the landscape that I get to spend out here. Hey guys, if you've been watching this video and you made it this long, please like and subscribe to this. If you have questions about what I saw, what you saw, what you maybe want to buy yourself. A lot of the lessons that I talk about on this vlog are transferable to you in your area, no matter where you're at. And I've got folks all the way from, I've had folks far away from England have messaged me, Las Vegas, Montana, Florida. So there's a lot of people that are watching this. And a lot of these lessons are kind of transferable. So please reach out to me. I really appreciate you watching this. I'm Neil Hauger, and I'm a land specialist for Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and you've been watching The American Landman. Come on, Lucy.